Short, crisp, and Hewitt. Welcome back to Sound the Siren. I'm Xavier.
I'm Dylan. Welcome back to another episode of the Supercoach series. We did miss last week, and probably for good cause from my point of view. But boys, how was your week off? And more importantly, how have your last 2 weeks been in terms of Supercoach?
My round 2 wasn't so good, but round 3 I've come out and I've had a really, really good week. Had all my players play, so got quite a bit of cash generation there. Still got 80,000 in the bank, and my season rank went up over 15,000 spots. So I had a good week.
My week off was all right. Didn't get up to too much, to be honest, but it was a bit of a rough week for the good old Supercoach team. I just cracked the 2K. I went 2061. I dropped 12,000 in season rank last week, so I'm sitting at 50,000 now, which is quite poor. But I don't know what I'm doing wrong, to be completely honest. I'm averaging 2,195, which is pretty much what I'd average towards the end of a season. So it's just been a rough year so far, but I think it'll turn around.
Yeah, I had a few weeks that I'd like to forget, and I've severely regressed, and that would entail making Jake Saligo captain. Completely accidental, but it happens, and I think I'll just play for league now. What do you think?
It's probably, I guess you've got a chance to come back a little bit. You're not going to finish, probably won't finish above Dusty or I after that move, but yeah, you can still win the league for sure.
The more impressive thing is I still cracked 2,000, and I had a higher score last week with Saligo captain.
Yeah, so, you're not that far behind. I think you still got a chance if you just get a good run going a couple of big weeks, you'll be right back into it. But it's a Supercoach rookie era, and I thought you're better than that, to be completely honest.
Yeah, still shadows from the past, but I've had plenty of villains this week, and Zave, I'll kick it to you.
We'll start with heroes or villains. What are we going to start?
All yours.
So I'll give my heroes first. Though my heroes, I've got 2 of them. Jordan Ridley, he's my first hero. He's the 3rd least owned player on my team. Quite a few people decided to trade him out this week, and he came out, scored 115, which could have easily been even more than that. I think he played really, really well for the Bombers. He seemed to intercept a lot. He was taking kick-ins again, which was really good. And he's got his season average back up to 95. So if he can keep doing that every week, that's going to be massive for me. And the other one is Jack Steele. He scored 121, and so it probably sounds a bit strange saying that that's a hero, because we probably thought he would average that at the start of the year. But 121 was good enough for the 2nd highest score on my team after Canelio, who I'm sure you probably have as your hero. He's the 5th least owned player on my team. So 121 from someone that's a bit of a pod, I guess, is really good. And it's really good. Everyone that traded him out for Took Miller is just massive, because Took scored 76. So I think those extra 40 points are really good for me.
And he was my captain this week. So back-to-back weeks where the captain has just been completely... it hasn't been helpful at all. And I had Jack McRae vice captain too, and I wasn't willing to take a 92. But if you look at my side, heroes are very hard to find. In fact, it was about time, as you said, where Jack Steele's plans for success finally came to fruition. And then Paddy Cripps with 119, Dunkley 129, Canelio 149, and that was about it.
Yeah, it was... It was a bit of a rough week. Canelio was obviously my number 1 hero. 149 was a big score, especially at his price. It's really handy to have, but there's not much else. My less owned picks and Callie and Ryan both underperformed severely. I guess I'm moving on to villains now, so there you go. They both underperformed, so that was pretty costly, and there wasn't much right. Chris underscored again. I guess Will Brody scoring 90. He's been pretty good so far, and I don't think he's getting full game time yet. So he's going at 0.9 points per minute, which is fantastic. So Brody's a bit of a hero, but yeah. But I guess if we're on to villains, I'll just say that my captaincy picks, Vice McRae, Captain Lockie, they both were underwhelming for me. Didn't help at all. And the ultimate villain is Paddy Ryder. I don't have him in my team, but Paddy Ryder coming in has ruined Ryan Marshall as an option and Jack Hayes's scoring potential. So I'm going to be looking to move on Marshall this week because he's just not going to be able to score that well with Ryder in.
While we're on that topic, Das, A, is Tim English the main candidate? And B, does he deserve a week for his hit?
Yes, he's the main candidate. I've already made the trade. He's sitting in my rock at the moment. And the hit's there's a bit of an iffy call there. I don't know, I guess it's up to interpretation for each person, but I thought it was borderline deserving a week.
Save, I'll ask you the same question. Tim English?
He's got to be the number one option, I think. Especially at the moment, like the number one difference in ranks is people that started with English or Wits over Gawn and Grundy, or Gawn or Grundy. They've been playing, in particular, Gawn have started a lot better than everyone else that picked the set and forget ruckman. So, I think English has to be the go-to man. Or if you wanted to get really risky, I guess you could go down to Braden Bruce, but I probably wouldn't recommend that.
Well, in a challenging year thus far, there have been a few rookies who have stepped up to the plate. And who is in your scope this week, Das?
There's one really, really obvious one. Nick Martin, if you don't have him, get him in. He's due to go up around 100K in price. He's averaged 92.5 over his first two games, and he's about to hit the bubble. So he'll get that price rise this week. He's looked quite good in games. I'd say his job security is quite strong at the Bombers. So if you don't have him, trade him in. And then Lockie Gallant, I think is how you pronounce it. He's another option, but that's only if you need to get a downgrade and you don't already have Martin. He's a forward there. Hugh Dixon's another one. 102K. He'll rise a bit, but he hasn't scored fantastic. And then the other two, there's a couple more. Wangani Malira, he's 162K. He hasn't scored fantastic, but he's passed the eye test for me. I think he'll be pretty good for the Saints. But at that price, you need better scoring. So I'd avoid him. Sam Skinner, Supercoach is saying he's injured at the moment, but if he were to play, he's a decent defensive option, especially with that forward switch eligibility. And then the other two are Sam DeConning and Brady Hoff, both averaging around 44, but they're both downgrade options if needed, but there shouldn't be too many people you're looking to downgrade at the moment.
Now, are the mainstream rookies such as Rochelle, for example, are they still a buy, or have people missed the boat on them? Even Connor McDonald as well.
The only one that I would buy would be Nick Dacos, I think. Maybe Horn Francis, but I think Nick Dacos would be the only one that if you don't have, you should get. But even then, he's 250K, and that's pretty expensive to get to. I wouldn't get Rochelle. His break-even's around 40 now, now that he's high scores out of his rolling through average. But I think most of the ones that have hit the bubble by now, you've already missed.
Yeah, and just
maybe
the only other one I think could be Mitch Hinge after his 91. Playing in defense, he took a few kick-ins on the weekend, so he looks like a really safe option to play at D5, D6, depending on your structure. With that 91 in his score, he's going to go up the next couple of weeks, so he could be a good option too.
Just a side note on Dacos, he could potentially be a permanent pick for people who haven't selected him this year. Taylor Adams is out this week, so that inevitably means that Nick Dacos will have more midfield time.
I think Tagoe is out as well with suspension
as well.
So really, Dacos is the main target in that midfield, maybe Lipinski too, but I couldn't see Dacos scoring below 100.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be a keeper in the midfield, but if he does get the defensive status that we've talked about a fair bit in the past, then I think he could honestly be like averaging 90 and be your D6 at the end of the year. So it wouldn't be the worst option. Obviously, it would save you a couple of trades, but I think he played a bit more forward last week rather than off the halfback line. So his DPP status might be in a bit of doubt now.
And I do think I think he'd be more of a James Jordan from last year, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He'll whip out those good couple scores that'll get you through a bit, but once you're around 14, 15, you'll have to get him out and get an upgrade going. But he probably would be at this point, he'd be one of the rookies you hold the longest, but I don't think he's scoring well enough to say you're going to hold him the whole season.
Now, I did mention Croc before, Connor McDonald, and I did conceive a plan to get him in this week. But have I missed the boat? I did select Saligo over him in week 1, and well, we know how that has happened. Unfortunately, he's out of the rotation.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't trade for Connor McDonald, given that there are like other options. Obviously, Nick Martin's the go-to one, but in the midfield, at least, if you don't have like Brady Hoff, his job security isn't as good as McDonald's. He hasn't scored quite as well, averaging 43.5 as opposed to 51.3, but he still is that 40k cheaper. And if he's not on your field, then it's probably a better option.
Yeah, McDonald's already gone up 37k and he's only averaging around 50. So he's not averaging high enough for you to think, I need to get this bloke in. His highest score has been 55. So I wouldn't look to get him in. I'd look just to go for Hoff. He's obviously cheaper and should be making more cash for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So I'll offer you this proposition since we're discussing trades. Saligo and Baldwin for McDonald and Martin.
I'd go Hoff and Martin.
I already have Hoff.
Thompson Dow. Can you afford him?
You could even do, I don't know, like O'Driscoll or someone. If you don't have him, he's 123k rookie on the bubble this week. He's only averaging 33.5, but that's including a score when he was the sub of only 18. So he scored 49 this week.
That 5k outside the price range to us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unlucky, because I was going to say he scored 100 last week, so he could be a chance.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of trading in someone that's already gone up in price, especially when they're not averaging that much at 51.3. It's like, yeah, it's a bit expensive to pay.
I think I'd just do Baldwin to Martin, and then you just take the loss with Saligo.
Yeah,
I agree.
All right. On that note, Das, what are your planned trades for this week?
So I've told you guys this one already, but this week I'm thinking I'm doing Marshall to English, and then that'll be handy in a couple weeks' time because English has the ruck forward eligibility, and then Cherry should have the ruck forward eligibility by then. So I'll be able to do a bit of switching then to, I don't know, if there's an injury or anything, that could be quite handy. And I'm thinking that next week I'll go Hayes to Bruce. So then I'll take a bit of cash from that. And then I'll make a lot of cash out of Bruce. So they're my trade plans for the next 2 weeks. And then I'll just have to assess from there. But I don't think I want to be trading out any of my rookies yet because I don't think any of them have hit their peak yet.
Dave?
At the moment, I've got no trades, but I think there's a very good chance, or at least the chance that Hayes does get dropped, given that they have brought Ryder and Marshall back in, and he didn't exactly look like a perfect forward in their forward line. He could come out of my team. I'm not sure who that would be for. So I've got 80k in the bank, but I don't think there's anyone I can really get to that's a genuine upgrade option. So it'll probably be Bruce, move Dixon into the forward line and put Bruce on the bench.
It's a little harsh for Jack Hayes. In that third quarter, he didn't necessarily score well, but he just had a few 1%ers that he contributed for the Saints, and he didn't get the score on the board for Supercoach. He scored, was it 50 odd? It was 57. So he kicked that goal at the end as well, which probably boosted him about 7-8 points.
Yeah,
so It's a little unlucky. I do think they'll consider keeping him there because it was a big win over the Tigers and 3 tools. But for money's sake, in terms of Supercoach and the 3-round rolling average, as Darth said, I'm a little dubious. So yeah, we'll have to wait on that one. All right, to your favorite weekly segment. This is the pod picks of the week, and it had to be number one, had to be Angus Brayshaw. 176 he scored, owned by 1.7%, which actually caught me off guard. He's 413,000. He's a midfielder, but I did think he'd be at the 0% or in that percentile, like Shannon Hearn, 0.4%. But we'll move to him in a second. Thoughts on Angus Brayshaw? How was his week?
I think people are getting Andy and Angus confused and trading in Angus Brayshaw instead of Andy after his good scores.
As the dads are messaging them, trade in A Brayshaw.
And Shannon Hearn, as I just mentioned, 0.4% ownership, and he scored 156. He's always been super underrated, in my opinion, and he just continues that trend. Also, Jared Lyons, 135, and he has a 1.1% ownership. Again, a surprise. What was that, Das?
Well, I was going to say for Shannon Hearn, I reckon I've had him probably most years in the last 4 or 5 years. He always goes quite well towards the middle of the season, but
yeah,
you know, you always think this will be his last good year. He's getting old now, and with Jared Lyons, it's I thought some people would have him, but I don't know. Yeah, he had such a good season last season, and everyone had to eventually work out how to get him in towards the end of the season. I thought people were going to start with him this year, but everyone's going to make the same mistake, it looks like.
Well, that was my initial plan, Das, but there was rumours revolving around his forward line time, and that definitely put off a few people, including myself.
Yeah, so I think the problem with Jared Lyons is he's a step below like McRae, Steele, Neil, Took Miller. So people prioritise starting them, and then obviously with the structure, we had so few defensive rookies that people wanted to play an extra premium back there. Some people did the same thing in the forward line, so they couldn't afford to play that extra midfielder. The other thing was his role is still up in the air a little bit. Like they bought Neil and Berry, obviously both of them missed significant time last year, and they're back into the side this year, so they're going to get some mid time. Yeah. And they have so many other good midfielders as well, like McCluggage goes through there a lot. Robinson plays on the wing, but he still gets mid time. Dane Zorko as well is another one that plays, although he's injured at the moment, so he's not playing so much midfield, but he plays in there a lot as well. So that's why I didn't pick Lions, at least. So.
Now, pod picks 4 and 5, Brad Crouch, the Ian Stewart medalist, he scored 131. And Nathan Broad, he's 445,000 and he's 30. And he's been given the thumbs up by Supercoach this week against the Western Bulldogs. Now, I'm not saying to bring him in, but
I'm honestly amazed you haven't mentioned Jack Sinclair yet. I know you went. Yes. I know you're going for more of a top scoring pods for the week.
Yep.
But in terms of blokes that you might need to consider getting in, Jack Sinclair's averaging 110. He's 492k as a defender, and he's owned by 2,054 teams. That's around the 1% mark. He looks pretty good, to be honest. He's gone 100, 114, 116. So he's consistent. I think you got to start looking at him.
And I'm not sure if you remember, I am continually haunted by my past. I had him in my team at the start of the year. So that's just another effort by me that we'll look back on and see. Well, there's Dylan in Supercoach for you. But
I think just on Sinclair, I think that's an interesting one. Obviously, as Darcy said, he's averaging 110 at the moment and he's been really, really good. But then I think the role comes into question a bit as well. So he's been getting a fair bit of mid-time at the moment. But then once St Kilda bring back Hunter Clark as well as Zach Jones, what role Jack Sinclair has, he might get moved back into the back line. And maybe that affects his scoring a little bit. So if you don't have Hewitt, I would definitely go Hewitt over Sinclair at the moment.
Yeah,
he's 40k cheaper, and is even as Jack Sinclair, he's playing so well. Hewitt's still averaging almost 10 points more too.
He was polling well last year, Jack Sinclair.
Yeah, but I mean, like he didn't score that well in Supercoach. So what was he? 460k coming into the year. That'd be like an 85 average, I think. So, yeah.
Then
but his role has definitely expanded, that's for sure.
I've got just one more. See your thoughts on this. Travis Boak. He's priced at 620. He's very expensive, but he's started the season like an absolute house on fire, averaging 146. And he's currently in 2.4% of teams at this point in time.
Yeah, big advocate for Travis Boak. He's been the main headline of the pod segment on the AFL Supercoach account, and for good reason. I think he had 0.8% ownership last week off the top of my head, if I can recall correctly, and he just continues to do it. He does not age, Travis Boak, and another big showdown from him.
Yeah, he's recovered. He's helped you hide away from that Luke Parker advocacy of yours.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that. But what I do want to talk about is, this wasn't planned at all, but it's been a couple of weeks since we last recorded. And in my opinion, I think we saw potentially the greatest AFL moment of all time. Buddy Franklin.
Oh, yes.
Boys, I wanted to gather your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I think Darcy and I spoke about this a fair bit. But just as an AFL fan, it's not Supercoach relevant, but as an AFL fan, it's just, you sit back and it makes you smile just every time. It was just incredible to watch. Like, I was at a pub at the time, and
I was about to say,
buddy, and
I'm messaging Zave. He's at Cinch. I'm crying right now. I'm crying in the club right now.
it was really cool to watch.
Yeah, no, it was so awesome to watch. Unreal scenes, and I think it's the type of thing you'll be talking about in 50 years' time.
100%.
Yeah.
Your kids, your grandkids, and they're like, they're talking about how good their key forwards were. They'd be like, well, back in the day, Buddy Franklin picked 1,000 and everyone was on the field. It's really cool.
Well, from the 2007 elimination final, where he probably built a name for himself, to the 13 goals, to now, I think he's transcended the game as a full forward. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 100%. He's different to anything else, at least that we've ever seen. Like 196 centimeters and moves like a freak. So
almost too much aptitude, but he knows how to bring a crowd to the footy. So, buddy, thank you. And I think it's only right to end on that note, because what a scene it was. Any last thoughts, boys, before we conclude here?
Nothing else from me.
Das. All right. Get your captain picks right, but that'll do for this week. Be sure to follow all our socials in the description below. Leave a like, a comment, any other segments you want us to introduce, and be sure to subscribe. I think we're on 199. We're almost at the 200 mark. So let's get there if we can, and we will see you next time. Thank you.